grateful for the opportunity to have this environment to be with all of you. So it was suggested that I do 3 satsangs, and I'm happy to talk about anything that you want. If there's anything on your mind, please say so right now. Um, and then we can start. Anything particular? I was going to talk about the awakened life because that's my interest right now. But if there's any other suggestion, I'm happy. Okay, so once again, you can hear me in the back, right? Clearly. Okay. Well, we talk about the awakened life. It is assumed that we are not awake. That the normal state of everyday existence is more or less like a sleep or a dream. And this is not a new idea, of course, either in Eastern traditions or in Western traditions. Wittgenstein, the German philosopher, said, our life is a dream, we are asleep, but once in a while we wake up enough to know that we're dreaming. And of course, in the East, the waking state in which we are right now, presumably, is considered a kind of a sleep, a dream state. The most famous quote, I think, in one of the most famous quotes in Eastern wisdom traditions is from the Buddha on his deathbed, when he said, this lifetime of ours is transient as autumn clouds. To watch the birth and death of beings is like looking at the movements of a dance. A lifetime is like a flash of lightning in the sky, rushing by like a torrent down a steep mountain. So, as he said these words, the story goes that his favorite disciple, Ananda, he said, who are you? Are you a Messiah? Are you God? Are you a messenger? What are you? And the Buddha said no to everything that he was asked. And finally, Ananda said, then before you move on, can you please share who you are? And the Buddha's last words, we are told, is, I'm awake. I'm awake. So let's consider this proposition that our ordinary waking state is a kind of a dream or sleep state, that we are ignorant of what is called fundamental reality. In yogic traditions, and there's a whole vast body of literature, but many interpretations, but I think anyone who's a serious student of yoga knows or has heard of the 5 kleshas, okay, the 5 causes of human suffering. And in order of enumeration, they are as follows. The first is not knowing the difference between reality and illusion, number 1. Number 2, grasping and clinging at that which is ungraspable. Number 3 is recoiling from that which is ungraspable. Number 4 is identifying with your provisional and changing ego identity. And number 5 is the fear of death. And so also, according to this teaching, all the 5 kleshas are solved, or you go beyond the suffering into liberation if you understand the first one, not knowing the difference between reality and illusion. So let's look at this very practically right now. If I asked you what happened to your childhood, you'd say, and you think about it, ask you to think about some episode from your childhood. Yeah, your parents, your bedroom, your playmates, and you try and recall that right now. It's kind of a hazy dream. It's kind of a flickering dream. If I asked you to think about your teenage years, if you're over your teenage years, remember some episodes, and they come on the screen of your consciousness like a flickering dream. But what if I asked you to think about last night, or this morning, or 10 minutes ago? What does that feel like? What does it feel like to think about when you came into this room or before the meditation started? It's over. And if you think about it right now, it's a hazy, flickering fluctuation of images, feelings, thoughts. That's all it is. What about these words by the time you hear them? By the time my words get to you, they don't exist. So everything you can perceive, even this moment, is already over. Right this moment. These days, people talk a lot about living in the present moment. Okay, but there's no such thing. The present moment as an experience is over by the time you have the experience. The present moment, by the time you experience it, is not there. It's over. So what are we experiencing? Are we experiencing reality, or are we experiencing wisps of memory from the past? Are we experiencing reality, or are we experiencing wisps of memory and desire and imagination, which is all the same thing? Just a flickering fluctuation of what? Sensations. Sensations includes sense perceptions, images, feelings, thoughts. Period. Whatever you're experiencing at this moment and every moment is fluctuating sensations. Sensations means all sense perceptions. Sound, touch, sight, taste and smell. By the time you experience them, they're over. And images, imagination, feelings, emotions and thoughts. That's all we experience. And furthermore, whatever we experience is not true. First of all, we are experiencing something that's in the past, and we are also experiencing something that, if we deeply look at it, is actually what perhaps in English we could call a magical lie. A magical lie. It appears to be real, but it is not. First of all, it's a memory. It's an image in your mind. It's some kind of fluctuation of sensations, its feelings and its thoughts. But whatever it is, it's not actually true either, from a very commonsensical point of view. Our senses tell us the earth is flat. Well, Nobody believes that anymore, except a few people. We call them flat earthers or whatever. Okay, your senses tell you this ground you're sitting on is stationary, and we know it's spinning at dizzying speeds and hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour. Your senses tell you that things are hard and solid, and if you listen to current science, then they are proportionately as void as intergalactic space. If you could see anything as it really is, anything, my physical body, your physical body, this computer, these flowers, this furniture, if you could see it as it really is, you'd see a huge emptiness, a few scattered dots, and a few random electrical discharges. And then if you looked at those few scattered dots and random electrical discharges, they would soon disappear into a total emptiness. So everything you see is made of nothing. Everything you experience is made of nothing. Every sound you experience is made of silence. Everything you experience is solid, is made of emptiness. Everything that you see as color, shape, and form has no color, shape, or form. So, whatever you're seeing, including your own body, is not what it appears to be. In fact, it's not real at all. What you experience as your body is not real at all. What you experience as anything is not inherently real. It appears real, but it is not inherently real. So, of course, we are all in our own way trying to find out what is real. And in our own way, for thousands of years, and today included, we all have our own idea of what is real. But what the great teachers of Vedanta say is, if you can conceptualize it and perceive it, then it's not real. So whatever you perceive is not real, but whatever you conceptualize based on your perception is also not real. That's a hard thing to swallow. That if you can perceive it, you can conceive it, if you can imagine it, if you can describe it, if you can somehow define it, then it's not real. That is a hard thing to come to terms with. And for thousands of years, people have had their own explanations, you know. In the West, God created the universe, and then who's God? Some kind of dead white male in the sky. In the East, we have all these wonderful deities, each one with a different attribute of the infinite. And then, of course, today we have the Big Bang and the singularity, etc. And in a way, these are all concepts based on some form of experience. Some form of experience, whatever that experience was. Okay. It doesn't matter what you call that experience. You could call it electricity, or you could call it gravity, or you could call it atoms and molecules, or you could call it images and feelings, but some kind of experience. Some kind of perceptual, cognitive, or imagined experience, doesn't matter. Some kind of experience had to happen so you could describe and create a model of reality. A model of reality. So according to current deep historians, up until 40,000 years ago, or thereabouts, there were 8 kind of human species. So we call ourselves Homo sapiens, which, by the way, means the wise ones. So we were humble enough to give ourselves that name. But then we gave names to other, what are called homonyms, people who look like us, or species who look like us. Homo erectus, Neanderthals, Florences, on and on. About 8 different types of humans. Just like there are many kinds of feline species. A little while ago, I saw a little cat come into this room. I don't know where she is or he is, but a cat is part of a larger family. Lions and tigers and panthers and cheetahs and leopards and jaguars. And they all look kind of cat-like, but they're different, but they belong to one family. They're different species. They don't mate with each other, except rarely, although the evidence does show that Homo sapiens mated with Neanderthals, which is a close relative, but not like us. So, like other animals, humans had a language, and the language was just 3 things: mating calls, food calls, and danger calls. Because that's how we survive: reproduction, mating, food, and danger. If you can do those 3 things, you survive. And this is all how all animals survive. All animals survive. And they all have languages, by the way, which is very interesting. Snakes have their own language, and elephants have their own language, and honeybees have their own language, birds have their own language. You have no access to their language, but they communicate with each other. Even insects communicate with very interesting languages, including a waggle dance and all kinds of infrasonic and ultrasonic in other species and so on, echolocation. So we have no idea what their language is, but they manage to survive. They mate, they avoid danger, and they eat food. But one species, this one, created a language for stories. Okay. There's an expression that to be human is to have a story. So we are the only species who tells stories. Stories about everything. And stories all began originally, we are told, with gossip. Okay, gossip is the most interesting story, and it still is the most prevalent story. Who's cheating, who's sleeping with whom, who can be trusted, etc., etc. But then we created other stories. We created a story called money. There was no such thing. Okay, but now it's very real. You can't do without it, except maybe to some extent in an ashram. But even there, not so. Okay. So money is a story. There was no such thing. He said, you fix my shoes, I'll give you a haircut, or something like that. But then you say, oh, let's use this shell. It's not inconvenient, let's use a coin. It's not convenient, let's use a piece of paper. Not convenient. Now it's crypto, digital money, etc. So, but what is it? It sustains the world. Wall Street, exchange, Las Vegas, you name it, empires, colonialism, all from one story: money. Latitude and longitude, Greenwich Mean Time. It's not Bangladesh Mean Time. It's Greenwich Mean Time, because that's what the colonials decided, right? It's a story. Latitude is a story. Greenwich Mean Time is a story. Anything that you can talk about is a story. Anything you can talk about. So, but the stories did not end there. The stories began with all what I've told you, but then they became other stories. The story of science, the story of religion, the story of mythology, the story of different aspects of science: astronomy, biology, physics, mathematics. And so as we kept refining the stories, which were all imaginary stories based on false perception, false conception. Those stories became what we call the human universe. They became the human universe. And different people, different universes. For religion, God, for mythology, innumerable gods and goddesses. For science, the Big Bang. And for technology, digital technology, etc., etc. But just remember, they're all stories. They're all stories. And they're all false. They're all imaginary. And yet, they rule our existence. So, notwithstanding that in Indian philosophy, which is one of the most elegant and complete philosophies with the 6 schools of philosophy that you may or may not be familiar with, but what the greatest luminaries and awakened beings have told us, that no story is giving you aspect or giving you access to what is reality. No story. Okay. We are sitting here in Sivananda Ashram, and Adi Yogi, Lord Shiva, known for his most famous hymn, not this, not this, not this, neti, neti. The only reality is pure consciousness. But then you say, what is consciousness and where is consciousness? First of all, what is consciousness? And even there, people argue about what is consciousness, but let's come up with some, unless we come up with some definition, we won't be able to have a conversation. So here are some definitions of consciousness. Consciousness is that in which all experience occurs. Simple. Consciousness is that in which all experience occurs. So, all experience. And now we can keep refining that. We can say consciousness is that in which all experience occurs. Consciousness is that out of which all experience is made. Consciousness is that in which all experience is known. But I think if you want to keep it simple, consciousness is where experience happens. So where is this experience happening right now? This experience, which is not a real experience, which is a memory, but where is it happening? So let's keep it simple, because we could go into this in great detail. But where is the experience of seeing me for you happening? You're looking at me or looking at these flowers. Look at anything right now. Look at actually these beautiful images and ask yourself, where is this experience happening? Before we ask, what is having this experience? Okay? So look at these images, beautiful colors. Say, where is this experience happening? Is it occurring there? If it is occurring there, then, but you are there. So if you are there, how is you having the experience of being there? Okay, so furthermore, over there is no color. Even though you experience color, what you're experiencing is photons, according to science, which is a story, by the way, but it's also a false story. But according to current science, there are photons that are coming from there. Okay? And those photons have no color. They have no dimensionality. They have no form. They hit your eyes and they go through your lens, and then they cross over through the optic nerves, and then on your retina, which is, you have 2 eyes 9 centimeters apart, 2.5 centimeters by 2.5 centimeters, curved. There's no image in your retina, but if there was an image in your retina, you would be seeing two of me upside down and curved and 9 centimeters apart. So wherever the experience is seeing is happening, it's not happening in your eyes. Okay? It's not happening there, it's not happening in your eyes. So what's happening in your eyes? Some kind of chemical reaction, electrochemistry, according to science. Another story, but never mind. And then what's happening in your optic nerves? An electrical current. What's happening in your optic brain? Electrochemistry. Are you experiencing any of that? No. What are you experiencing? These images. What are you experiencing? Your own body. This, whatever we call this. Okay? So, you're not experiencing electricity or chemistry or anything. You're experiencing this theater of space-time and causality, but we can't say where it's happening. It's not happening there, it's not happening in your eyes, it's not happening in your optic nerves, it's not happening in your brain. So where is it happening? And the only answer is, it's happening in consciousness. Okay? So then you say, if it's happening in consciousness, where is this consciousness? Why can't I see it? Why can't I experience consciousness? And the answer that's given is, you can't see it because it doesn't have a form. And if it doesn't have a form, that means it has no border, right? Everything that has a form has a border. But if it has no form, it has no border, and if it has no border, it must be infinite. Okay? It must be shapeless, it must be timeless, it must be outside of space-time, because anything in space-time has a form. But whatever is having the experience doesn't have the form, so it's not in space-time. So it doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end. It is irreducible, it is formless, it is infinite, and it is also incomprehensible. There's no way to imagine it. There's no way to conceptualize it, and yet without it, there's no imagination and no conception, and what it imagines and conceives as false anyway, is not true. It's the ultimate incomprehensible mystery of our existence. So, if you read the 8 limbs of yoga, and the last niyama is Ishwar Pranidhana. You just have to surrender and say, I give up. Okay? I give up totally and completely. And that's called surrender to the divine. Surrender, because there's no way you will be able to conceptualize it or imagine it. Okay? One of the greatest physicists of the last century was Freeman Dyson at Princeton. English, originally from Cambridge. He died only a few years ago, in his 90s. And he was it's after Einstein, but very highly respected. If you've heard of modern contemporary physics around the black hole and other things, Freeman Dyson is a very important name. And he said, God is what the mind becomes when it passes the threshold of our comprehension. When we cannot comprehend, the mind cannot comprehend intellectually or imaginatively or conceptually, then you give up and you say, That's God. Okay. But then after that, anything else you say about it is a story. Anything else you say about it, it's like money. It's a good story and it helps you navigate. So, what about all these images? Well, they are the infinite in that expression. We can't imagine the infinite. So, we say, oh, Hanuman, those are the qualities of the infinite. Krishna, those are other qualities of the infinite. But we can't describe it. So, but we need something. So, it gets us as close as we can till we go beyond that into the formless, inconceivable, imperceivable. What reality is nothing conceivable or perceivable, but without it, there's nothing to conceive or perceive. Furthermore, what you are experiencing as perception and conception is very species specific. I'll repeat that. Whatever you're experiencing right now is species specific. The human eye, for example, can see only between 300 to 800 nanometers. For the most part, unless you have special instruments, you can't experience ultraviolet or infrared or infrasonic or ultrasonic, or what does the world look like to an insect with 100 eyes. Do you know how many eyes a dragonfly has? 30,000. A dragonfly can have 360 vision all the time. But you don't know what it's experiencing because it has its apparatus accesses wavelengths of light that you and I do not access. What does the world look like to a honeybee or to a bat that knows the world through the echo of ultrasound, or to birds that navigate through electromagnetic um, fluctuations, or snakes that navigate the world through infrared? In fact, whatever consciousness is, the infinite, is experiencing itself in infinite ways. And we have only access to human ways of knowing and experience, limited by the limitations of our brain and our perceptual apparatus. So what we perceive is false, what we conceive is false, and then there's a whole infinite number of things that other species are experiencing that we have no access to. And they're all experiencing a particular reality. When you make a sound, whatever sound you make, does another species hear the same sound with a different nervous system, different range of capacities, neural capacities? So, first of all, what we experience, unless you go all the way back to the source of all experience, which, if you're a really accomplished yogi and you can transcend all experiences, then you can go to the source of all experiences and you can then access the multiverse, the real multiverse. But otherwise, through normal human capacities, you can't. So these days, it's very popular, I think, in certain circles anyway, for people to say, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. It's have you heard that phrase? I'm sure. I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Sounds kind of cool, fashionable. Okay. So, but the religious experience and the spiritual experience are the same experience. Yeah, I'm not talking about now the stories, okay? There are innumerable stories in religion. But the religious experience before the stories is the same in every religion. And it's only three things. Number one, you find your identity beyond space and time. Number one, you find your identity beyond space and time. That means it doesn't follow the laws of karma or space time or causality. It's eternal, timeless. That's the first religious experience. The second religious experience is that there is the spontaneous emergence of what these days in psychology might be called Platonic values, as in Plato: truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, equanimity, peace. And number three, the loss of the fear of death. That's it. Everything else is a story. The experience is just those three things. If we were to rephrase it, transcendence, which means identity beyond space, time, and causality, spontaneous ethical values, and the desire for truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, equanimity, and loss of the fear of death. After that, it's a story. So, of course, if we go to yoga, and yoga is one of the 6 schools for liberation. Yoga says Raj Yoga, which is the 8 limbs of yoga that we do: yama, niyama, yogasana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. 8 limbs of yoga is complete, totally. Raj Yoga. Bhakti Yoga, we heard that in the Kirtan. Karma Yoga, which you know what it is, doing what needs to be done, leaving the results to the unknown. And then finally Gyan Yoga, which is correcting all the mistakes of the intellect using the intellect. Okay, so what is the mistake of the intellect? The mistake of the intellect is I am here, you are there, and we are in the theater of space, time, and causality. And this is the illusion, which is, of course, the technical word you've heard, is called Maya. Maya is a very interesting word. It means Maya is the goddess of illusion. She is basically giving you the veil of ignorance, creating this experience which is not real. And Maya, the word, is also related to mother. Maya, mother, mata, matrika, meter, time, music, measurement, myth is the story. Maya is the story of ignorance. Okay? And then you say, to what purpose? And it's called Leela, the creative play of the infinite, which has these infinite modes of knowing and experience, from gravity to electricity to photons to whatever else you want to call it. All stories, models of reality. Models of reality are not reality, just like a map is not the territory and a menu is not the meal. You can't eat the menu. Although the menu can tell you what you can choose to eat. So like that, we have stories and models that point the way, but then you have to eat the meal. And the eating of the meal is yoga. Raj Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Gyan Yoga. So let's take Gyan Yoga for the moment. And I'll close with that for the moment, okay? So let me ask you, take any object. What is this? It's a hand, right? What is this? A computer. Well, that's the story. Okay? That's the story you were told as you learnt language. Before you learnt language, that wasn't a computer. It was a sensation. It was a shape. It was a color. It was a sound. If you want it, it was a taste and a smell. That's all it was. That's all it was. So look at those flowers again and don't call them flowers. What are you experiencing? Color. Without color, no shape. Without shape, no form. Red flowers, human story. What does that look like to a snake, infrared? No idea. What does that look to a bat that is experiencing itself as the echo of ultrasound? No idea. Okay? What you are experiencing right now is on the level of seeing. Color, red, we can agree. That shape, that form, we can agree. Red flowers, natural or plastic, I don't know till I touch them. But that's a story. When you're listening to me right now, you say, oh, that's Deepak speaking with an Indian accent in English. That's a story. What you're hearing is noise. What you're hearing is noise. Period. So what are you experiencing? Shapes and colors and sounds and tastes and textures and stories and imagination and feeling. I like this, I don't like this. All of that is a false magical lie. And that lie includes the fact that you have a body. That lie includes the fact that you have a mind. Mind is a story. Body is a story. The physical world is a story. So now let's go deeper. Where is that color happening? In me. Me meaning consciousness. Where is this experience happening? In me, in consciousness. Where is this sound experience happening? In me, in consciousness. Right? Where is that me? Not in space-time. So this whole thing is happening outside of space-time. And I am there. I am there, not here. This is my projection. My mind. So what am I experiencing right now? I'm experiencing me, or what I call me, this body, this shape, this color, at this moment. Okay, once upon a time, this was a fertilized egg. And then it was a zygote and an embryo and a baby and a toddler. So I have a body. Which one? There's no such thing. This is an intermittent experience of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts, which has already happened. It's part of the dream. This is a dream. What's happening in this is a dream. All this is a dream. Who's having the dream? I am. And I'm having infinite dreams. Mosquito dreams and alligator dreams and tiger dreams and cat dreams and tree dreams and rock dreams, and the whole thing is happening in me. So what is that? That's me. Look around you and everything you see is you. In that shape or form or texture or taste or smell, and whatever you're seeing is a projection. So these days, if you go to Google and you type out what are the 150 open questions in science, the first open question in science is, what's the universe made of? And you say, well, at least science should know what the universe is made of. Atoms, molecules, force fields, gravity. Well, those are stories. Furthermore, those stories are very confusing. When did the Big Bang happen? 13.8 billion years ago. What caused the Big Bang? We don't know. What happened before the Big Bang? There was no time. If there was no time, what was there? We don't know. Let's call it a singularity. Okay, then what happened after that? Well, for the first 10 to the power of 30 minus 33 seconds, it was the Planck epoch. There were no laws of physics, so we don't know. Then what happened? Something called cosmic inflation, where the universe tripled in size every trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a second. Then it slowed down. So it started as a dot, became a grapefruit, and now it is, 100 billion light years across. Why so precisely tuned mathematically? We don't know. So actually, what we have as modern cosmology is again an incomplete story based on human perception and conception. Okay, we do not know is the only answer. We do not know is the only answer, and surrender to the divine is the only answer. But if you go deep enough, whatever you experience as your body, as other bodies, as shapes, as textures or smells, it's a fluctuation of consciousness. And it's so interesting. The whole thing is summarized in one sentence in the second verse of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Yog Chit Vritti Nirodh. Yog means union with the divine. Chit Vritti, the fluctuations of consciousness settle down and you experience pure consciousness. That's it. Now, an elaborate version of that is chapter 13 in the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna, acting as the infinite divine, speaks to Arjuna, the limited human mind. And chapter 13 is called Kshetra and Kshetragya. I am the field, I am the knower of the field. So what is the field? It's not the electromagnetic field, it's not the quantum field, it's the field of consciousness. And I am the knower of the field. I am aware of myself as the field. And then in chapter 13, Lord Krishna enumerates the modifications of the field as experience. So the field is infinite, incomprehensible, irreducible, spaceless, timeless, beyond imagination, beyond conception, formless, but it modifies itself into human experience by knowing itself as the mind, the intellect, the ego, the 5 sensory activities, the 5 motor activities, the tanmatras, the pranic body, the physical body, and the physical universe. The field knows itself as that experience. Okay, the mind, intellect, ego. And so again, we divide that in yoga into sthul sharir, the physical body, which is false. It doesn't exist. Sthul sharir. Sukshma sharir, mind, intellect, and ego, also false. Okay, and then the source. So also called Karan sharir, or causal body, which is Jiva, Atma, Brahman. Okay, Jiva is the seeds of memory, and they come from past experience or residues of experience called karma. So it's a very interesting thing that karma is part of the illusion, as it's based on concepts and perceptions, which are false. Okay, which are false. If I asked you, do you remember what you were doing last Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Do you remember what you were doing on your 14th birthday? Unless it was dramatic, something really dramatic happened, 9/11, you remember. So everything you remember is a false, fragmentary, momentary thread of memory or desire based on experience. So, big question that is asked, and everybody asks, and basis of all religions is, where do we go after we die? And it could be very simple, actually, if you think about it. If I asked you, what did you have for what did you have for lunch this afternoon? Khichdi. So when I asked you the question and you said khichdi, now as soon as you say khichdi, there's a memory, right? You remember the taste. You remember where you were, vaguely. It's a kind of thing, okay? Now I ask you, okay, do you remember, which I asked you when you picked up from me from the airport. I said, where are you from? You said, I lived in Israel and I lived in, where did you live? In upstate New York at the ashram. And you now remember that, right? So where was that information before I asked you the question? Do you think there's a little pocket of brain tissue here that says khichdi? Or say, where did you grow up? Israel? There's no such thing in your brain. So where was that memory? Even though it's not very clear, where was it? It was in your consciousness. Okay? The yogic tradition says there are 4 stages. Before I asked him the question, khichdi, what did you eat? 4 stages. The first stage was para. Para means it existed in the beyond, only as a possibility. Second was pashyanti. Suddenly a cloud of probabilities started to emerge. Where did you grow up? I grew up in Israel. But before that, it was a cloud of probabilities. Pashyanti. Madhyama. Internal dialogue. Image starts to come, and then you say Israel. Okay? So where was that memory? Unreliable though it is, it was in para, in the formless, infinite being, in I am. And then I asked you the question and you suddenly you retrieved it. So where do you go after you die? Where the khichdi was before I asked you the question. You don't go anywhere, you're there now. Because from there, you're projecting this theater of space-time and causality through memories, desires, karma, all of that, stuff that people talk about. And they say, this is real. So what does it mean to wake up? Wake up means exactly that. Chit vritti nirodh, that place of para, which is beyond space-time, which is our home. And the answer to where do I go after I die, given by awakened beings, is I was never born. Okay? That which was never born does not die. What is born is vrittis. And that's all there is, by the way. There's consciousness, Shiva, and there's Prakriti, Shakti. And she's the story, and he is the source of all stories. So I think I'll stop here, and I thought what we can do next time is do a meditation on this idea. Right now what I showed you was something called the direct method. Direct method means when you look at something, you ask yourself, what am I experiencing? Without the story. Color, form, shape, sound, taste, texture, feeling, thought, imagination. That's what you're experiencing. Where are you experiencing? In consciousness. Where is that? Outside of space-time. Who am I? Outside of space-time. What is this? A provisional story. How many stories are there? Infinite. So, I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Okay.
We would like to thank very much Dr. Deepak Chopra for this fascinating talk. Let's give him a big hand. So in his next talk, he's planning to do some meditation on the ideas that we studied today, and there will be a third talk. So the second one is on Friday morning, in the morning satsang, Friday, January 10th. And then the last one will be on Sunday, January 12th, in the evening satsang. So the morning satsang is at 6, and the talk will start at 6:30, and the evening satsang is at 8, and the talk will start at 8:30. So the next one are also called satsang with Deepak Chopra. And we'll go over the announcements and the schedule. So we have a wake-up bell tomorrow at 5:30. At 6, we will have morning satsang, and in the morning satsang, we will have a special ritual, which is called Ganapati Vidya Homa. It's a fire ritual that we conduct every month in the first week of the TTC to remove the ATTC, to remove the obstacles from the path and to bring the divine knowledge. So Ganapati is Lord Ganesha, the remover of obstacles, and Vidya, Mother Saraswati, who bestows the spiritual knowledge. So our priest, Krishna Nambudri, will perform this ritual for everyone tomorrow morning. Everyone is invited at 6 o'clock here. And then we have yoga classes at 8, 9:50 brunch, 11 the ashram tour, living from reception for the new guests. At noon, we're going to start the program with Gina Salah, who is a very gifted musician and kirtan singer, and she's here with her accompanying musicians. So her program is called Sound, Tantra, and Bhakti Chant. And the workshop at noon will be a chanting workshop with some teachings. And in the evening satsang, she will also offer a concert tomorrow night. So we will have afternoon yoga classes at 4, dinner at 5:50, at 7 the Gita Parayana. And this is a chanting of one chapter from the Gita, followed by a short study in the main temple. And in the evening, the concert with Gina Salah and her musicians. Now we're going to conclude with the final prayers and the arati. Tomorrow is the day off for the TTC and the ATTC. So we wish you a nice and relaxed day off. Remember to still come to the morning satsang and the evening satsang and to do your 1 hour of karma yoga. And the rest of the day is free for resting and studying. Om. ATTC, you still have your morning pranayama tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Page 97. Om Triyambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivadanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityur Mukshiyamamritat. Om Triyambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivadanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityur Mukshiyamamritat. Om त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् चूर्मुक्ष्यामामृतात् ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णम् उदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णम् एवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ peace peace peace. Universal prayer by Swami Sivananda. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent and omniscient. Thou art Sachit Ananda. Thou art existence, knowledge and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptation, to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred and jealousy, and fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember thee. Let us ever sing thy glories. Let thy name be ever on our lips, and survive in thee forever and ever. Bolo Sadguru Sivananda Maharaj ki jai. Bolo Shri Guru Vishnu Devananda Maharaj ki jai. Please stand up for the arati. You can follow along on page 118. Om Jai Jarati Vinna Vinayaka Vinna Vinayaka Shri Ganesha Jai Jarati Subramanya Subramanya Kartikeya Jai Jarati Venugopala Venugopala Venulola Papa Vidura Navanita Chora Jai Jarati Venkataraman Venkataramana Sangadarana Sitarama Radhe Shyama Jai Jarati Gauri Manohara Gauri Manohara Bhavani Shankara Samba Sadashiva Uma Maheshwara Jai Jarati Rajarajeshwari Rajarajeshwari Tripura Sundari Mahalakshmi Mahasaraswati Mahakali Mahashakti Rati Anjaneya Anjaneya Hanumanta Jai Jarati Datatreya Datatreya Trimurti Avatara Jai Jarati Adityaya Adityaya Bhaskaraya Jai Jarati Shanishwaraya Shanishwaraya Bhaskaraya Jarati Shankaracharya Shankaracharya Advaita Gurave Jai Jarati Sadgurunata Sadgurunata Shivananda Jai Jarati Vishnudevananda 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 Jai Jarati Agastya Munaye Agastya Munaye Shirama Priyaye Jai Jarati Ayyappa Swami Ayyappa Swami Dharma Shastave Jai Jarati Jesus Gurave Moses Gurave Buddha Gurave Jai Jarati Muhammad Gurave Guru Nana Gurave Samastarebhyo Namaha Jarati Venugopala Om na tatra suryo bhati na chandatarakam neva vidyota bandikato yamagni tam eva bantamanabhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvendam vibhati. Om Gange Chayamune Chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Namastabhyam Namo Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Bandhu Katvameva Tvameva vidya dravinan Tvameva sarvam mama deva kayena vacha manasendriyarava buddhiyat manava prakriti swabhavat karomi adiyat sakalam parasmahi nara ti samarpayami sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja amtva sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma sutra. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you very much, everybody at home, for joining us for this beautiful evening satsang. Have a good night and sleep well. Everybody here, make sure to take prasad before you leave. Please help us in tidying up the satsang hall. All the green cushions, please help us in taking them to the back of the platform. Have a good night, sleep well. Om Tat Sat.